Hello everybody, I'm George from Ireland. Here I am in the Botanical Gardens at Kirstenbosch, Cape Town, and this was founded about 1902. So Jan van Riebeck, the founder of Cape Town, when he came here, he later planted a hedge. I can't find it, but that was to demark the limit of the land that the Dutch were initially claiming. Obviously they went far, far beyond that over the coming centuries and called themselves Afrikaners rather than Dutch, and their language evolved into Afrikaans. But so this was a farm through most of the 19th century. In 1895 it was purchased for £9,000. We're on the lower slopes of Devil's Peak. It was bought by Cecil Rhodes, who was still Prime Minister of the Cape Colony at the time. He resigned from that position in 1896, part of the fallout from the abortive Jameson raid against the Transvaal Republic. And then they started setting this up there after that. He gifted the land to South Africa, and the South African government decided to establish a botanical garden. But I think it only began in earnest in 1912, if I've got that right. Obviously, after the Second Boer War, it was 1910 before South Africa got self-government again. The union was proclaimed. And so, yeah, they established this, got all sorts of plants, and I'm no botanist. I'm not going to bother telling you what's what. I don't even know in most cases, but just appreciate them as an aesthete. And some of them are incense-bearing, and you can hear this babbling brook trickle by. So that's why it's so verdant, because it's very well watered. And it's sort of wild in places, it's manicured in other places. There are lots of palm trees around. I don't know if they're indigenous to South Africa or not. Then they're rather wild trails. You can see how unconquered it is with the boulders breaking the soil, erica, Protea and so on. So it's its own mini biome, this part of South Africa, and so it's got thousands of plants which are originally from here, but some have been transplanted around the world. What I didn't know the other day is primrose, which you have all over Ireland, comes from South Africa originally. I can't think what else does. So there are lots of benches to memorialise people who love spending time here. Look, Paul Rudolph Leroux, born here in 1915. Well, I don't know if he was born here actually, but born in 1915. So then the Huguenots came out, as in French Protestants, after 1685, the revocation of the Edict of Nantes by Louis XIV, as in no more toleration for Protestants that are severely persecuted. Up to 20% of the population of France are Protestants. And so they moved often to Germany. A German with a French surname is usually of their descent, came to Ireland or to Great Britain or to South Africa in some cases. They weren't actually allowed to leave, they just did anyway. So the Protestant population of France went from being 20% of the population, about 5% of the population. That's partly conversion under pressure to Catholicism. So those who came to South Africa, they intermarried with the Dutch. They adopted the Dutch language, and they simply blended into the community, were fully accepted. There are no people who are just thought of as a separate, as being French, even though they have a little bit of French descent. They got some Dutch and then indeed some German descent. That's why some of the Afrikaners have got those surnames like Dutoit, Duplessis, Joubert, and I can't remember the other ones. Okay, so lots of ferns as well. And then you can hear the birds tweeting merrily in the background. It's their autumn, which is why some of the leaves are yellowing and indeed have fallen to the ground. And there's a useful plants garden, those which had medicinal properties. It's because the Khoisan people who lived here for thousands of years before Europeans set foot on this part of the continent, they used plants for their medicine. I can't vouch for how effectual they were or otherwise, but put it this way, they don't rely on that anymore. They've gone for, I suppose, so-called Western medicine, which I know is not originally or entirely Western in origin. Or maybe I should say modern medicine or scientific medicine. Okay, and there is Devil's Peak above us. So it's a very warm day. There's just a slight breeze off the Indian Ocean. So the Cape Doctor is not billowing over the hills behind. What else was I going to say? So then it's not as floral a garden as I expected, but in some places it's fragrant. There's a very heady sense of some of these plants down here. These purple ones, I'm going to show my ignorance right now, but they're somewhat aromatic. There we go. I've been surprised not to see or hear more bees buzzing about. So the ground is very uneven, which mustn't make it easy to garden, but obviously makes it a slight challenge for people going up to steep hills. So they've deliberately left some of it untamed, as well as some of it manicured. So there's a pleasing degree of variety about it. Okay, they have outdoor concerts here and things like that. And then the first proper botanist was a Cambridge University graduate. He came out, died here, is indeed buried somewhere in the gardens. So yeah, I don't think Cecil Rhodes specified what it was going to be used for, but his house was hard by grote schuur, as in big shed in Afrikaans, where the Dutch East India Company had literally that. But then that was rebuilt into a very opulent mansion, and indeed their state guest houses there. It's the President of South Africa's residence when he comes to Cape Town. Of course, officially he lives in Pretoria, but they say that the President far prefers it here. And there you're seeing up over Cape Town. Well, I can see it with the naked eye. It's maybe a bit too dark to particularly appreciate it. But there's very little wildlife here. You think you see some animals scurrying around. I mean, aardvarks, meaning earth pigs in Afrikaans, they're native to this country, but I haven't seen any. Perhaps they don't live around here. I remember going to the beach in Durban one time, seeing one was walking down this hillside path. Now, what else might I want to point out about this place? A few cafes and restaurants, and of course the gift shop. It doesn't count unless you have an expensive souvenir. So you can come on that double-decker red bus. There's a red route and a blue route, it does, but one of them drops you off at Kirstenbosch, the hop-on, hop-off service. Okay, but that's quite expensive, 350 Rand. Or I got a taxi here direct from the city centre, that's 150. Then I'm going to get it back, but it'll go back to exactly where I'm staying, so that's still cheaper. So admission is 230 Rand if you're a foreigner like me. For South Africans, it's less. And you can buy these maps and leaflets, which are highly informative. Buy them in English, French, Afrikaans, Ici, Sir, or Deutsch. I'm really trying to get that right. Ici, Sir. Someone told me you click off the side of your mouth to get it right. So they got several clicks, just like Zulu. I was told so that there's some mutual intelligibility to the two languages. So I can't think what else is notable about here. But it's getting into more of the wilderness, and sometimes it's just like a dirt path, but this is a well-paved one, which is very easy to walk on, as you can see. And then there's a mountain trail where you can go up quite steep up to Devil's Peak. Well, I suppose you could try going all the way up if you want to, but it does get very rough and rocky. There are not that many gardeners around, but it's not looking too bedraggled and neglected. So there are at least 3 entrances with car parks. There's a tree canopy walkway as well, which I want to try. So it's got all sorts of plants, some which are year-round, some annuals, proteas. They've got many different guises, as it were, which is why they call them that, after that Greek god, or was it goddess, who had many different faces. Here is Van Riebeck's hedge. Doesn't look like that much like a hedge to me, but anyway, here we go. Right, thank you for watching my channel. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon. Donate to PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye from the South African Botanical Garden at Kirstenbosch, Cape Town. There are several botanical gardens in South Africa, in other parts of the country, for the different plant life in other regions. Toodaloo.